What is buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
You better believe we are going to buffer in time here as we talk about Discovery's final episode. Before we get into that, let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
I'm Ren from Ren Rants.
Hi, I went back to using woo-woo asshole because there's a lot of woo-woo elements in this episode, but you can also call me Del.
Hi, Del. All right, I think the only piece of news I've seen this week is that Alex Kurtzman will be directing the first 2 episodes of Academy whenever we get that. I would really like to have gotten a solid start date for Lower Decks, closing out one show, but we know we'll get it before the end of the year, so wonderful. We just don't know when we'll be back talking about new Star Trek, or whether the next thing is Prodigy.
What's sad is we can basically guarantee that the Lower Decks finale will be better because it's planned to be a finale.
I don't think Mike McMahon knows how. I mean, he does definitely know how to make a bad episode, but I don't think he knows how to make a bad finale. There hasn't been a bad end to a season yet. All right. So, as for this wonderfully mediocre ending, let's start with something easy. Are some of the visual effects, particularly at the beginning of the episode in the progenitor world, evocative of V'ger from the motion picture?
It made me feel of the Iconian Gate. And I think the idea that the Iconians could be the ones that built the tech and then gave it to the progenitors who used it and has now found Michael who needs to destroy it.
And here's a shot from the motion picture.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a connection I didn't even notice.
Yes, but in particular this one right here. But there were a few other times that it also felt like, and more than even just like direct the way it looks. A lot of this episode felt to me like it was effects for the sake of effects, just like the motion picture, you know, like it felt like half of that movie was just effects and it didn't really have a plot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of always been a bit of a hang-up for Discovery and modern Trek in general, is it's very, very effects heavy, and I think they overestimate how impressed audiences will be with action, so they kind of build everything around the action.
And also, it brought me back to season 1, which was my least favorite season of all of them. Yeah, I don't know. I knew it had to exist in order to put Burnham at the very beginning of the hero's journey, that she has to be, you know, a prisoner and a mutineer before she can go through this plot line of transformation that gets her to where she is when she's ready to go into the progenitor tech.
I don't know, Mirror Universe Lorca, aside from Burnham, might be my favorite captain from Discovery. And that's, I think, the biggest... there's plenty of things that we could have gotten more of to tie up, but I think the biggest thing in the entire series that they needed to tie up is what happened to actual universe.
Where
Lorca.
is Prime
Lorca?
I didn't like season 1 of Discovery the first time I watched it. But then watching it through later on, after I kind of knew where the show was going, it really grew on me. And I have to admit, they built up the Lorca reveal so well, because everyone hated Lorca. They were like, he's not like a Starfleet captain at all. And then you're like, that's because he isn't a Starfleet captain at all. That was actually pretty awesome. Like, that was really well done.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely off, but even... He played the role pretty well, honestly. He's better than some of the like bad captains that we've seen from actual Starfleet. I might actually like him more than Rayner. Like,
I am very sad in the way that I like weird Star Trek. I'm sad we never got to find out if Grudge is literally a queen or if that is just something that book says. Because I have made the assumption since the first time it was mentioned that there was going to be some plot line where she's going to like transform into some sort of like feline, humanoid with a big scary crown on her head, sort of like a daughter of the winter constellations. Like all of a sudden you find out, no, she really is a queen. And I don't even think we saw Grudge in their house in the woods.
Well, that would make sense because
Yeah.
that's like decades later, and
But
No,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to extend the lifespan of cats in the future. I don't want to live in a Star Trek future where my cat can't live like 50 years. Boo.
but
we needed to see Grudge in this episode for sure.
somewhere, because I think she's as much tied to sort of the family. If you bring Book, kind of Grudge comes with.
Grudge makes 3.
Yes.
So following up on the original question there before we went off on
Sorry.
tangents, but totally okay because it's stuff that we definitely need to talk about. So do the hand-to-hand fight scenes towards the beginning of the episode feel superfluous and like they just were thrown in there?
It gave them a reason for us to see what was through different doors. Like they start out in one universe and then they go to not Shakari, and then they're in another one too where I think it's all electrical storms or something.
I liked the pink one. That one was neat.
Yeah, I
But
hadn't thought about it that way until I saw Sean Ferrick and Trek Culture and they're
Yeah.
like Shakari, and I'm like, okay, yep, it's that same kind of lighting. I guess I can buy that.
But yeah, I think that's why the fighting was also cool. Gravity, like when Michael becomes Mario and can jump long distances as long as she keeps putting pressure down.
Yeah, I mean, at least there was like, hundreds of mile an hour winds or whatever to help her.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
I just
That
don't
was the
get
thing.
what Maul's resistance is at this point.
yeah, she does kind of just feel stubborn for the sake of being stubborn.
Because, like Michael said, if I can fix Locke, I'm going to do it. And I'm not trying to be mean to you, and I don't want us to fight. And it's Maul constantly.
because
Also,
Maul's entire universe is just her and Locke. Everybody else is just means to an end for her.
but the strategy of pissing off the Breen before you're out of where you are, like if you piss off the Breen, you're living in between two black holes for the rest of your goddamn life. Because who's going to come after her? Nobody. And so pissing off the Breen made no sense in my mind. You can hate the Breen, you can manipulate the Breen to do what you want them to do, but like shooting them and sending them away is not helping.
Yeah, I think part of it's that she's so lost without Locke. She's not really very rational at this point. She's just kind of like externalizing her pain on anyone who's just around. And I think that she works really well, like as a damaged character. But yeah, I do wish we kind of got like,
Oh, I didn't get a chance.
I don't know, something more out of her. I knew there was no chance that we were actually going to get to have Locke brought back, but I did want it for her really bad. I wanted it for her so much. Like, big sad.
I think it was part of the motif of like live in the present. And I think being in mourning and trying to bring a dead lover back to life is not being really present.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it was done better, but I hate that this is basically just a reused trope from last season with what's his name? That dude that I fucking hate. Tarka. That guy. But yeah, for me, the fight scenes, and in particular the last one, where Burnham just starts it and then gets mad at Maul, like, "Oh, you need to stop. You started the damn fight." So in other territory, and talking about the Breen, was Saru's solution to the confrontation with Tahal anticlimactic, or the most perfectly Star Trek way to end that conflict?
I really liked it for Saru, when we consider where he started out in season one as, you know, sort of meek and terrified a lot of the time, not understanding who he is and, viewing his species as prey, and then discovering that his species are the predators and, coming into his own in that way. I thought that was kind of like a cool culmination of his arc. And Doug Jones can like act a phone book. Like, I loved his line delivery. It was so good. Like, I have studied you as prey. Oh, yes.
It gave my partner goosebumps when
So
when he
good.
went into
Mhm.
that speech.
The amount of emotion he is able to show through prosthetic makeup is just incredible. That's so hard to do, and
It
that
blows
is
my
definitely one of the
mind.
high points for
And
me
the
of this
contacts,
episode.
like he doesn't even have real eyes to emote with, and he's still just like, oh, what a legend. Absolute goat.
I mean, he's like, most of his career has been costumes and prosthetics. He was the original Mac Tonight in the early 90s, late 80s, and
He was amazing in
uh,
The Shape of Water in like full like creature from the Black Lagoon suit. Like,
yeah, this was easily the best Saru moment, I think, in Discovery.
Yes, I
and that's
I
agree.
mean, it's
saying
not like I've
something.
disliked him,
Rooms
but
are great moments.
he really knocked it out of the park with this one. Especially where like we hadn't even seen him for half the season, and then just doot doot doot, hey, I'm gonna get some people to come fuck you up your doorstep if you don't back down, and the Breen backed down. That's pretty great.
Oh, hey guys, just popping back in to steal the whole season.
Sorry, I thought the person who had played Maul was the same actress who played Pencil Tucky on Orange is the New Black.
No, nope.
No, but they were in Caprica because I know Gannon's on his little Battlestar Galactica thing, and Caprica was supposed to be the sequel, which was horrible, terrible, and I hated it, and I really wanted to
Oh.
like it. But yeah, no, she wasn't the same actress. She looked like it in the last scene.
I can kind of see it.
What did you think about Discovery separating and then yeeting the Breen ship to the edge of the galaxy?
I loved the spore drive stuff, and I really kind of have always held that Saucer Shep is for the D. Like, or at least thematically from our reality, when I think of a ship that can separate, I immediately think of the D. And so I feel like that should be the D's thing. Like, Discovery's already got spore drive, that's its thing. So it doesn't really need a saucer setup. I did like the whole we're gonna jump them to the galactic barrier.
Yeah, that was cool. I didn't hate the saucer separation. I kind of I had the opposite assumption that it was like standard on the ships with the saucers. I assumed they could all do it. Um, and for me, like when you get a saucer separation, it's like, ooh, big stuff is happening. Like that's just such a funny little Star Trek specific thing. So to me, it just feels like a callback that's kind of always welcome.
As,
I Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you can finish.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I did think it was funny that they end up like yeeting the technology because now we went through all of that effort to like find the progenitor's tech just to like yeet it into what, like a gravity well or something where no one will ever find it. And it's like, so like maybe we just shouldn't have looked for it in the first place. Like what? What?
We'll get to that. We'll get to the progenitor
Sorry.
tech here in a little
Yeah.
bit. As far as I know, it's still not clear whether they just the ship is supposed to have separation ability, whether that was one of the things that was added when they did the retrofit to the A, or whether they just separated it even though it's not meant to. Because the
Mm.
original in TOS, there was an episode where they almost separated it, and it's not meant to, but you can. You know what I mean? It's just not as easy to get back together, which seemed funny to me at the end that there was no like integration scene or anything. So we don't know whether they had to like mess around and match them up, match up the rotation and angle, and then put the bolts back in, or if
Sorry.
it's just meant to glide right in there like Riker and Encounter at Farpoint.
That just feels like a lower deck scene where like you have the saucer separation and you have like oh, so close, so close.
Boom. I mean, I guess they just prefer it because that's like their. Well, actually, I guess it wouldn't be their natural state.
No,
I don't know. That's a great question.
The jelly state is supposed to be the evolution, but that's why they have to wear the masks and the suits, is because the jelly version is much more sensitive. Whereas I think they eschew the older form because it would be like someone choosing to become a Neanderthal. Like, why are you wearing your Neanderthal ridge? Like, we're past that now. I don't know.
It is funny that they're like, you've become inflexible, when it's like, bro, your whole culture seems pretty inflexible. What are you talking about?
I just feel like we had this opportunity to really understand the Breen better. And instead of like 10 chapters, we got 1.5.
But hey, now we know that they have like a polysarcmates ritual.
That's true.
Involving an oil bath.
So, what did you guys think about the kind of simple puzzle of putting an empty triangle together as the final puzzle after all of the stuff that we've been through this season?
Someone ran out of ideas.
I could find better riddle puzzles online in less than 10 minutes. That would be more difficult. The only reason I think this is the puzzle is so that Maul can look at it and get the immediate solve she thinks is right, but also allows them to actually create the solve they had in mind. But like I was telling Rave when we were watching it, like, if I even in an RPG had gone through this season of like trying to find all the pieces, and this is the finale puzzle, I got somebody to punch.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I would have been mad. I mean, I am a little mad.
Especially after the whole season where it's been like trials and tribulations here. For this to be the final puzzle, it seems like a kid's something that you'd give to like a 6 or 7-year-old.
yeah.
Solve the
And not the
triangle, and then
key
we
to
talk
the
about
most
the
important
feeling.
technology in the galaxy. Speaking of which, so what do you make of the idea that the progenitors weren't the ones that created the tech? And do you think it involves maybe the Iconians or the Preservers or the Tkon or something?
I immediately went to Iconians. I also thought about the Travelers,
Okay, that's a good one.
especially since they're going to bring Daniels in the end to sort of button it. Like having it be some sort of temporal something would have been interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. And it kind of adds even more interest to like the weird, like Trek intelligent design thing that they kind of inadvertently created with that. I didn't have any specific aliens in mind who were like the originals. I think they left it open-ended to hopefully come back to explore, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if I need to dig into this anymore, especially with the aforementioned yeeting of the tech. Like, it's kind of cool.
So, do you think Burnham made the right decision then, both walking away from this and then, yeah, putting it into a black hole out of the reach of everybody?
Yes. I mean, the fact that that other people were already seeking it with bad intentions, and that the Federation has acted shady on more than a few occasions. You know, I could see the Federation justifying using it to, like, wipe out the Breen at some point if the threat got really bad. Like, I do think it's reasonable to get rid of the technology. I just also think that does make the whole, like, effort to find it in the first place feel very pointless and silly.
I wish they had given Stamets a day. You know what I mean? Like, to let him get in there and look at it from a technological standpoint. Not with the intent to recreate it, but to try to understand like what went into making it and how it works. But not so that he can rebuild one, just because it is a huge scientific discovery. And as being a trekker who's more interested in the exploration than the pew pew pew, like that said something to me.
Yeah, overall it felt to me like, yeah, like we've almost wasted the season going to get this thing just for her to put it away. But at the same time, like I get where she's coming from. Yeah, it's dangerous. Stuff could get weird. But I mean, they also just dealt with like the 10C last season, and that feels like kind of the same thing where it's just you also then have the responsibility of when you become the next level in the Kardashev scale of societies.
See, I feel like we had more interesting lead up to the 10C than
I don't know about
this.
that, but
Oh, I liked finding the dust and figuring out how the dust has to play with math and whatever.
that was okay. That I liked the ending to that season, but man, I did not like the lead up at all. Season 4 can just nope, does not work for
I
me.
really like it. And I guess maybe
That's
that's
okay.
what made this season really hard for me is I've been an apologetic Discovery fan of some sort, in that like everyone is so thinks it's so shitty that I'm always like, but here's one little good thing you might like, or the last episode was really cool. And my favorite seasons are two through 4, but mostly 3 and 4.
Norman, maybe you can expand on this a little more, but I thought Zora's creation was pretty well explained. She's a culmination of all the ship's knowledge along with the from the orb.
The
What
sphere.
do they call it? The sphere, right? The sphere data. So, which it was like hundreds of thousands of years worth of knowledge from around the galaxy, and that created. And between that and like what we saw in Enterprise or in on the Enterprise D in season 7, where it like birthed a consciousness out of the computer's experiences over the years. So to then have all that sphere data in there, I think it makes sense. What do you guys think about Rayner now in the final episode versus where he started in the first episode of the season?
I think he better understands Michael's approach to leadership, and also in the same moment realized why he needed to get to know the crew one by one. Is the idea that he needs to know who is going to do what part on the bridge. You know what I mean? Like, who do you want at your ops when you're war, for lack of a better term? What pilot do you want? Detmer. And I think I can see that working for him through his choice of Tilly. And I think
T-
one of my favorite quotes of all time from this episode is going to be Tilly going, "No, no, 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 absolutely no,
yeah.
maybe."
No, no, no. Yes.
I do love the like rapport that Tilly and Raynor have developed over the course of the season. It's really, really cute. They're like besties now. They get each other. I love it a lot. But I also feel like some of the stuff with Raynor suffered from kind of the same problem that the like found family with Stamets, Culber, and like the baby gaze did, which is that like it's a trope, right? Like the like the hard ass like becomes like a beloved member of the crew, and I think they let the fact that it's a trope do a lot of the legwork for them, partially because of how limited the time was that they had to like build this character. And it's kind of the same thing where I felt like that found family thing, they like really rushed it, where I'm like, oh, I love all of these characters, I love them becoming a family, but this happened in like 2 episodes. And so it just makes me like sad, because I wish that this season had been as long as some of the other seasons. Like Discovery seasons started out with like 16 episodes and then got shorter and shorter and shorter as time went on. And I think if we just had a little bit more time, it would have felt just a bit more earned.
Hey, Gannon, before you jump in, I just want to answer Norman's question. It was the sphere was put there in the first place because of Burnham's mom as the Red Angel. She put the sphere there for Discovery to find. So
I love
now,
trying
what's
to
up, Gannon?
explain that plot.
Hey, what's up? I'm finally able to join. I was like doing something. But I guess I just wanted to ask what everybody's expectations are for Academy, and if you have much faith of the heart in this future series, and if you think that it's going to somehow repair Discovery, because I think that if it's bad and everything's going to go to hell. But if it's good, it's going to do a lot of good to repair some of the content and some of the things that we get to explore in Discovery, because I think they're going to make the time to have characters from Discovery make cameos on that show. I think at minimum, we're going to see a lot of Vance, Tilly. We're going to see like Non at least once. Maybe even Saru would be awesome. And then like an ultimate cameo would be Michael, I think, for the setting.
And they could draw from other series too, as having them be like holograms or watching video of what happened on their ships. Like I could see bringing Enterprise characters into it, especially since now we have the tie with Daniels. I could see them. I would love to see like Admiral Janeway still teaching.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, there's like a bunch of stuff I got to catch up on. So the original question that we asked last, I don't think much different about Raynor from beginning to end, which is kind of problematic for me. Like Shaw in season 3 of Picard, I hated him at the beginning, kind of liked him just before they friggin' killed him. And Raynor, I feel about the same from beginning to end, where it's like, all right, you're a troubled character, great. As to what Gannon was just saying, I will look to you, Gannon, and people your age to see what you guys think of Academy, because I have a feeling it's intended more at the 15 to 25 age group. This is like, I think it's going to be CW Trek to try and pull in that generation more than be for us older folks.
I'm excited for it for that reason, actually.
I am excited, but
because I ended up loving Discovery even with its problems, but I think it's kind of a hard sell for introducing like complete newbies to Star Trek, because it relies just enough on a lot of the old stuff that you feel like you kind of have to have some knowledge going into it. And then it's very different from other Trek series in terms of like the level of action. So if you go into that and you think, oh, this is great, I'm going to love all these other Trek series, and then you go back and watch like TNG, which is much slower and very, very different, I think it's just a harder intro versus something like Strange New Worlds. But I think an Academy show that is geared a little bit younger is a good way to like introduce a younger audience to the world and like make them interested and make them care about it while still like using maybe some like teen drama tropes and stuff like that to like draw people in. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'm kind of psyched for it.
All right, word. Yeah. I as like a younger Trek fan, you know, I'll watch it and everything. I think that of all the things they could make, it's not the best decision right now, especially with like the health of Star Trek. I just really want it to be good. That's all I care about. And I know Tawny is writing for them, and
Mm-hmm.
you know Tawny's
That
great.
could be huge.
Everybody loves her. I feel like she's going to be the one that they rely on to make that connection to the youth, because that's one of the things that scares me. I feel like from Discovery's conception, they've been attempting to appeal to the youth, and they try to get younger and younger. You know, they tried to make Prodigy, and you guys already know my opinion on Prodigy. I think it was doomed to fail from the start. And yeah, I think that every time they've tried to connect to the youth, it's been kind of a failure, because Discovery was kind of their successful attempt. Like season 1 was very Gen Z to me. I always bring up the party episode with Harry Mudd. I felt like that was like a very Gen Z episode. I felt like Ash Tyler's relationship with Burnham was also like really cool. And yeah, I just want it to be good. Also, remember the Kid Cudi collab? That was also their attempt at connecting to the youth, and it was embarrassing and a waste of money. And
it really was.
It just seems like everything that they've tried so far has been a miss. They tried creating Prodigy to appeal to really, really young fans, and I know you guys think that it's going to in the future when it's all said and done. I don't think that Prodigy's ever going to be profitable, ever.
I don't think it necessarily needs to be, though. Here's the thing: when like you say, the health of Star Trek. Well, like yeah, streaming and shows right now, things have taken a serious turn in the last couple of years. But think about this just a couple of years ago when all of this stuff was being planned out. We were going to have this puts it in the realm of, we have Prodigy for the young kids. We have Academy for the next generation up from that, the 15 to 25 crowd. And then you've got your Discovery and your Strange New Worlds for the like 25 to 50 crowd. So I think it made sense at one time. And I'm not saying it won't. This might be great. It might be a great show, and it might really help pull in your generation more. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Also, I feel like I've seen all I want to see of Starfleet Academy from Wesley in the TNG. I really just don't give a shit about fucking Starfleet Academy.
Oh man, I loved those episodes. I watched them as a teen, and I was like, oh man, I would love to be a cadet at Starfleet Academy. That looks so fun. Like, I always wish that we could have seen more of it. So like, yeah, I'm still really hyped. The only thing I'm sad about is that it's not going to be like the classic San Francisco campus that we were all like used to.
They aren't like sneaking space weed, and they aren't like smoking some Turellian Kush or something in their dorms. I don't think it's going to be a good show, because
I think they're going to do that though, because Star Trek has been way more willing to like acknowledge the existence of swear words and drugs.
No, of course, because you look at Picard and Rafi, and she was hitting the dabber when they first
the
trailer.
Well, even Tilly got high in one episode of Disco.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I love when they get high in Star Trek. It's awesome.
It's super fun. It's funny. Like I think we are gonna see like youthful shenanigans. I mean, even the stuff we saw with like Picard in Tapestry showed that there was some youthful shenanigans.
Yeah.
It was just weird because it was old bald Picard.
I guess, like, listen, the only thing that's keeping me from being abrasive about this show, because like I said, it could be a good show. It's not like the most important thing to me in the setting, but I'm only one fan, and that doesn't matter. But I just think that Discovery is just so bad, and they could just make another bad show, and my faith of the heart is waning.
That's fair. It is. I mean, heading into this, we're in the same 32nd century. We're going to potentially have a few of the same characters. So it's a valid criticism, but we just got to wait and see.
I am excited.
So I have left Tanya's comment up here forever because I do want to talk about this. I didn't even have a question about it, but yes, Burnham, Space Jesus. This is a thing that's been thrown around since season 1. And then she almost had that opportunity to actually become Space Jesus. And that was one of, I believe that was Dell's theory last week, even though, like, literally, I think the only theory that we had I can't even remember what it was now. I remember thinking after watching it, only one of our many theories came true this past episode.
I don't think that Burnham in this particular episode is the spiritual plot line. I think it's Colbert.
Oh, dude, I think it was so lame that he's like talking about Janal the whole season, all for him to just make this connection in the final moment. It was just that really bugged me. That really bugged me.
I have worked with people who have had similar experiences, not a Chantal, obviously, but when a spiritual experience happens to them and it changes them. And people say that all the time. But like for me, I forgot how to cook. I used to make Thanksgiving dinner for all my friends, and I can barely make toast now. Like it was just one of the things that changed. I got a lot more courage, and I was able to talk to strangers a lot better. And there have been times where I've been able to solve something that I have no idea how I know to solve. So that was probably the part of the plot line that my partner and I discussed the most, was about Culber's journey and where it could go from here. But finding the beauty in the unknown is a big deal.
Yeah, I thought Culber's situation was fine this season. It didn't wow me, but I also don't hate it. As far as Michael Burnham, though, yeah, the way this series has been all Michael Burnham, all plot armor, all the time, and I really thought she was going to end up being some form of space Jesus. You know, the Cisco called home to the Celestial Temple here.
Yeah, I'm glad they cooled it a little bit on that, because like I like Burnham. I've always been a bit of a Burnham apologist, but you gotta admit there sure is a lot that ends up centering on her again and again and again and again, to the point where it like really strains the suspension of disbelief a bit. So having her just be like a normal person encountering this phenomenon and then like making the decision to yeet it into oblivion was fine. I definitely prefer that to making some like super complex, like intricate thing where it was going to be Burnham who found it all along.
I think Burnham has been on the hero's journey, and that's what puts her front and center, is that they're showing the different way stations on the hero's journey via the experiences that she has, and they're getting more like bigger and more in depth, you know, going to the galactic barrier versus finding some whiny Kelpian. But like she jumps into all of these missions with her whole heart, and she always comes back a little changed, and it just felt very hero's journey, starting from a mutineer and a prisoner and working your way up back to captain, and then becoming not just captain, but one that Admiral Vance trusts. Like, I think... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's the plot of every Elder Scrolls game, like Skyrim. Every single Elder Scrolls game, you start as a prisoner, and then you work your way up through the world.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, so that's totally valid. And I think as a hero's journey, it is like well written and enjoyable. For me, I think the reason I always had a little reluctance is Star Trek has always been so much more of an ensemble show. And so centering it almost completely around one character and one character's journey, while very normal for like most other shows, to me kind of like takes away some of that like let's figure this out togetherness of Star Trek. And not that Burnham doesn't have help, she always has a lot of help from everyone around her, but it still always felt like kind of the Michael Burnham show. And again, like I still liked it, I still liked Discovery, but I think that at times became a bit of a weakness, because then it became every season had to have these huge stakes, this huge plot, and it all also had to somehow come back to Michael. And I think that just put so much like pressure on the writing that they didn't have any time to like really have as much fun as they could have. And I think that was kind of the problem. Like this season, like we couldn't even squeeze in a wedding episode. Nowhere.
Right.
Half a wedding
We'll
episode.
get to that.
Okay, I will. I'm mad about it.
I'm going to say I think they took Burnham one season too far. When most people didn't like her in the first season, it's like, yeah, okay, I get that. She wasn't great, and it was all just plot armor, though it was no worse than like Kirk in TOS. But I really, by season 4, even though I didn't really like season 4 as a whole, I did like Burnham as a captain, and I like her arc going from, where she was to how she ended up. But then this season, 2 problems. A, she had no more growth. And B, she didn't have anywhere left to grow. Oh god, I had something else I was going to say, and I kind of lost it.
Season.
What was that?
I said it's the get back together with my boyfriend season.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing was that she's fallen back into that, well, I have to be the one to solve all the problems by myself again.
Stop, George just made a really good comment about that.
I'm going to fix it. I'm going to save you all. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, last season, I really liked how Rillick finally talked her down off the ledge and was like, look, you're a captain now, learn to delegate. And she did, and I appreciated that. And she didn't really do that this season.
She really just saved herself and, like, I guess got Maul out of there, but she didn't, she saved everybody outside too, because they were in trouble, I think.
Do you think the Locke and Maul plotline was meant to end like this, or was it a victim of the cancellation?
I feel like it was probably always meant to end this way, with like the loss of Locke and Maul having to accept it and move on, especially potentially patching things up with Booker. She made sense as like a 1 season character with a 1 season arc, honestly. I like it.
I could have seen a season 6, not that it would focus on it, but her being the only pseudo family that Booker feels he has. And I would have liked to see a little bit of softening of Booker through that journey. Even if Maul goes to work for Kovich Daniels or, whatever, he could still have access to her. And I would pay to watch the Maul works for Section 31 series.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
a really big fan of Section 31, but I like the idea of Maul doing it.
Yeah, I think it was always meant to end like this for Locke, but yes, I do feel like they were setting up Maul to come back next season. Even if it was just 1 episode like they do with Nan, and, just bring her back and we do a quick mission and there you go.
I feel like everywhere I look, it's just a victim of the series ending too early, right? Like this is the one opportunity where we could have a villain not really redeem themselves, but come back as maybe a cast member later. I know Michelle Yeoh kind of did that in the first season, but she wasn't really the main villain. It was Lorca in the end. But I feel like Maul could have been the main antagonist and then, survive and come back into the next season. And that would have enriched her story. Whereas I felt like the whole Maul and Locke storyline was very shallow in the end. He kind of died, and then she had to accept shit in the sickbay talking to Book. And I also really am disappointed that I didn't get even a little flashback of Book's mentor. Like, everything in this season was spoken about secondhand, whether it is Raynor's backstory, whether it is Maul in books mentor's backstory, or whether it is the scientists. Like, we never got to see the scientists. We never got to see Rainer's village being exploited in any type of flashback. I just felt like any of those scenes would have enriched the plot a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm just coming to the end of finishing the Fallout series, and there's a lot of that there, and I appreciate the crap of like going back and you tell this little story in between all the stuff that's actually happening.
I love the Fallout series. It's so good.
Oh
I
man, I
have
need to
one
watch
episode left, and maybe we'll do a special thing that's not Star Trek because I have a lot to say about Fallout.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna
I'm
watch
very
after
good.
Battlestar. I'm almost done with Battlestar. I got like maybe 10 episodes left at most.
Rock on.
Oh, Gannon, you weren't here. The woman who plays Maul is also in Caprica.
What's Caprica? Is that like another series they made?
It exists within the same world as Battlestar, but it's sort of set in the beginning of inventing Cylons.
Okay, gotcha. So don't talk too much about that because I'm still in the final 10 episodes where they're
Oh,
split.
I won't. I just said that the actress was the same
Yeah.
one who played Maul.
Yeah, okay. And also, I did make a realization. Remember that the actress who plays Tori, which is one of you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She plays the sub commander or the commander in season 1 of Discovery that gets mauled by the tardigrade, and I think that whoever
Oh,
wrote
No.
must have seen Battlestar and just like probably is like, oh well, we're gonna do something a little mean to sub commander, whatever her name was, because I think she died in both universes. Like, she got mauled by the tardigrade,
She
and
did.
then she got killed in the mirror universe as well. So she was bullied.
Oh,
And something
the
else
tardigrade
funny
death was
about Battlestar, if you guys watch it, is that they definitely followed in Star Trek's footsteps about having a chief of operations, and you torture the shit out of him as like every chance you get. So like there's a chief of operations in that show, and he's tortured just as much, if not more, than Chief O'Brien. I
Oh
think
my
it's
gosh.
fair. So George's question down here, I think the biggest difference here is, I mean, with Gray's all of Gray's memories and stuff were still within Tall, and that was easy to pull out. Picard had literally just died, so he still had some brain activity and stuff to work with. With Maul, he's been dead for a while, and I thought it was really weird this season that, like, after he's been dead for what's probably days, only then does Maul be like, oh, well, I'm going to put him in a transporter buffer now. And in
Yeah,
this scene, I also thought it was weird that she just like, well, I guess I'm going to bring him out of the buffer now. I'm not ready, but let's do this.
Man, I don't know. Like, the ending really did did not do it for me between these two. It was not impactful. Of all the times to be like sappy and impactful in the series, I feel like they should have had 1 to 2 minutes of Maul actually fucking grieving over her lover. Like, what?
I have cried somewhere at the end of most Star Trek series, and this one did not evoke really much emotion in me at all.
I didn't
It just
cry
kind of
either,
is.
and I will cry at anything. I am a sad little baby.
Oh.
I cried at the
devastated
wedding, I
inside.
will admit.
Even
The
in
wedding
those are the
uh,
even in These Are the Voyages, the fucking terrible Enterprise ender. When it gets to the very end and they show all the ships named Enterprise and do the little boldly go thing, yeah, even that brought a little tear to my eye. But this, nope, not once. Go ahead, Gannon.
Oh, I don't even remember what I was saying, dude.
Sorry.
Yo, you're good. I don't care.
I think for me, it's more, I felt sad that my show was over. I
That's fair.
don't feel sad that this is over.
Man,
I don't feel like it knitted itself up to a neat ending. It's just, if there were more of this, I probably would have dropped out.
I think that the ending is okay. So I think I told Dustin this, but I'm a sucker for the final 25 minutes they slapped on at the end, and I think it really is truly a shame, and it's kind of criminal how, is it ambiguous is the word to, I don't know what the right word to say here, but you could splice that last 25 minutes on, like you could steal it away from this season, create 2 more, and then just splice that ending on the end of season 7 if you wanted to. Like, it really is just such a band-aid to me. I loved seeing Michael. Like, you guys know I don't even like Book. I'm pissed off how much Book is in the series, but I loved seeing her happy in the end.
I love
I
Book.
feel like it's so often that they try to end a Star Trek series off with some bullshit. I think maybe only Voyager was the one where they didn't like straight up kill somebody. And
I love the
then
Voyager.
TOS, you know, doesn't have a real ending. TOS doesn't have an ending. It's just kind of like, but yeah, no, I really did like the ending. I loved old Admiral Burnham. I loved Admiral Saru too. I loved everything. I'm a sucker for it. It's just kind of like happy fan service. But it is just such a shame. It really doesn't have anything to do with this season. It could have been slapped on to any old season. Yeah, dude, I was just so disappointed with how this show's almost a victim of itself sometimes. I liked the ending.
So speaking of Admiral Saru, which was just a one-line thing from Vance that was like, "Hey, thanks, Admiral," or "Nice wedding." I can't remember what he says, but he's congratulating him on his wedding, Admiral. And like, oh, okay, Saru's an Admiral now. Cool. So here's a question. Did Saru and Tarina's wedding get enough screen time?
No.
No, I'm so angry.
Nothing in the
Okay.
fun moment did, bro. Not
Not
enough
only-
Lord Detmer, not enough wedding.
Not only did we not get a wedding episode, we didn't get the vows. We don't get the vows. We spent this whole season like building up to this wedding, and we skip the freaking vows. Really? Really? We just get like a 2-second, oh look, oh they're married, oh haha, great ceremony. We don't know. We didn't get to see it. I'm so mad.
And I need to have words with the person who styled the female
Tarina?
Vulcan, Tarina, who styled Tarina's wig. Because that was some ugly, ugly ass hair cutting going on.
Is it?
And it wasn't even, you think of Vulcan hair as having steep, straight, in like parts to it, and her cuts are all uneven as they go from like the jawline into the ear line. They're like all uneven, and I'm like, no, like Vulcans don't do feathery hair, you know.
Well, for their wedding, I guess they do. I mean, I saw Trek Culture say that too, and I'm like, really? I don't. And I'm not looking at the hair anyway. The tailor in me is like, oh my god, this fucking wedding dress is amazing. And my wife and I
yeah.
were like, can we renew our vows for our 15th anniversary next year, and we'll do this?
Yeah, I'm really mad we didn't get to actually really see the wedding. Like, that just sucks a lot. Like, really? The finale was so long, they couldn't add 5 extra minutes for, like, an actual wedding scene? Like, really?
Did anybody else get subconsciously just mad looking at those fucking fakers at the helm all season? Like, I was just like mad at the new helmsman. I was like, why are you here? Why is Owo and Detmer not here? This is the final season. You guys
I'm
are
not mad at them. I'm mad at the producers and the
Yeah,
writers.
like, I liked them and would have liked them to be
It's not their
characters.
fault, but I'm still mad. I don't know who to be mad at. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just wish, like, of course they didn't get a chance to be characters because they were only there for a season, and Owo and Detmer barely got chances to be characters. But, like, I am mad about it. Yeah. I'm not mad at them, but I am mad that, like,
They didn't have a single line of dialogue this
Hold
season.
this picture.
they got a couple lines, and they got names that I will not remember because they were barely characters. Oh, you're talking about Owo
Owo
and
and
Detmer.
Detmer. They didn't
Yeah,
say
they
a
didn't.
single word.
They got fuck
They-
off.
They were just kind of like, they weren't audible during the last.
Owo went on
in
one
the
away mission
flashback
and
one.
got, like, 2 lines.
In the flashback one where Rayner and Burnham are jumping around, she did have lines in that, but not in present day.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
This image is the last best hope that they are a couple. They are standing to the point where their shoulders are touching. Owo's kind of lowering her head and kind of leaning toward Detmer. Like, I know it lasts 35 seconds, but like, it gave me a little bit of closure about those two.
If they're not married in Starfleet Academy, I will burn down Paramount Studios.
Wow.
That's all I'm I'm saying.
You're thinking that Paramount Studios are going to distribute it. That's funny.
So the answer to my next question was, in your headcanon, are Oo and Detmer a couple now? I guess we have that answer.
Been on
I
their
mean, they've
honeymoon
always-
this season. Like that's should have been their explanation for why they weren't here or something. Like
Yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
eloped.
Anything.
No, did have an explanation. They when they ran
driving-
into the Enterprise, they had to
Yeah.
drive it back somewhere else, and they said that's what Oho and Detmer are doing.
Yeah, I
They're-
guess the
they're
ship just
doing
goes
it at half
really
impulse.
slow. Fucking Christ.
I feel like I could come up with a better explanation on my lunch break, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's also like completely the fault of the writers that this happened, because the reason they weren't there is both of the actors were seeking other, like were filming other stuff, because you know they barely get to be characters in Discovery, so of course they looked for other jobs. Like,
yeah. Oh no, honestly, you were spitting earlier when you were talking about how, like, I think the one thing that you really can't ignore when making a Trek series is that we're so used to having like a cast that actually is held together and we get to explore each cast member. Like I don't really like love Deep Space Nine. It's not one of my favorite shows of all time just because of Captain Sisko alone. It's because Bashir is there. It's because Kira is there. It's because Odo is there. Do you know what I mean? They all have their own handful of episodes that I just love.
my gosh, you guys.
We're all entitled to our opinion. I'm not gonna knock it.
Yeah, I say something wrong.
No, I just really like Deep Space Nine.
Oh, did I? I said it was.
You must be the first person I've ever met that says that they don't like Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine was the black sheep for years.
Heard me. It is my favorite Star Trek. It is one of my favorite shows of all time. I was just trying to say, it's not. The fact is not that just because of a single character. I miscommunicated.
Yeah,
okay.
I kind of get it.
It's my favorite show because it has an entire cast and each character is great and each character has a handful of episodes that makes them awesome, and even supporting characters that aren't there the whole time, like who's on screen right there, Cassidy Yates, and even Jennifer Sisko appearing in a handful of episodes, like the Mirror Universe, saucing it up, making it interesting. Like I love Star Trek because you can hold a cast together and I get to learn about each one up until the final moments when maybe you decide to murder one.
The other thing that Discovery didn't do that every other Trek show does a lot more of is like most other Trek shows like play jump rope with like the spectrum of different genres. Like you'll have a courtroom episode, you'll have an episode set in like a weird Scottish planet, you'll have an episode set in the holodeck in Sherlock Holmes times.
We don't talk about the weird Scottish planet.
It was hilarious, okay? That episode.
I want to make an observation. I wonder if, and I do not like using old Trek versus new Trek, but I have to work with that here. New Trek, like when we were watching Strange New Worlds, we're going, where is the Ortegas episode? There's a lot of people on that bridge that been there for, seasons now. We know very little about them. And that was sort of the same with Discovery. Like we would learn just enough about them that we could differentiate them and kind of at least understand who they are at the most surface level. Whereas in older Trek, I think it's right. They became a team and they worked together as a team and they spent time making sure that you knew everyone that was on the team and what their jobs were. I think maybe that's one of those sacrifices due to not enough episodes. So that they can spend it on learning those things. But I would love to have seen more of the Discovery crew working as one unit.
Del, like to further your point, like New Trek takes it to almost embarrassing levels of just having characters exist, and their version of us getting to know them is not really just having them just be normal people in a professional setting talking to each other with dialogue, but they just suddenly burst out something traumatic that's happened to them, and I'm supposed to care. Like Detmer I think was there for 2.5 seasons, and then she just, after they transferred in the future, she suddenly just started blurting out traumatic stuff. Like Dr. Bashir, you only get to learn about his trauma like way later when you learn about his relationship with his parents. He's an augment. But all before that, we had to rely on him as a character, just talking to other people and being a freak. Like Dr. Bashir is one of the freakiest characters in Star Trek because you sit alone with him in a transport for like 10 minutes, talk to him, and you realize, oh, this guy's a freak. But no, I don't get 10 minutes alone with Reese. I just kind of have him in the background. And then there's an episode where he's like, oh yeah, like my dad like got in a car accident or something. I don't remember exactly what happened to Reese.
Yeah, I think Reese's, when they've done it with him, has been the worst. He always pops up in the weirdest places to tell you something. It's like, oh, okay.
It was on that episode with the prisoners where he explained.
Yes, I know. Yes, that was what I was thinking of.
Reese is like if Harry Kim never actually got character development. And it makes me so mad because he seems like such a great character in the like little snippets we get where I'm like, oh, he just seems so nice and like funny and charming, and I would really have liked to see him be a character. Like, I'm mad we didn't get a single like Reese episode, really.
Wait, whoa. Wait, Ensign Harry Kim got plot development?
I mean, he never got.
He went to the
Up in
planet
rank.
where
There
they
are
were
tons of
gonna
Harry
eat
Kim
him.
episodes
Dude,
in
remember
Voyager.
when he
There
was
are
like,
so many Harry Kim episodes. He's like one of the mainest characters.
Yeah, he's
like,
like-
there's episodes with him and Tom.
There
There's
are, but tell me
multiple
what is
romance
different between
episodes.
Harry Kim in episode 1 and Harry Kim in the end of episode 7.
Oh,
Because I don't
played
think
the
there's a
saxophone.
difference.
He come into his own. Like, he should have been ranked up.
remember?
But-
Yeah,
Learn how
but
to
besides
play
the obvious.
saxophone.
He
When-
goes from being like a meek little guy who like, you know, sort of leans on Tom and like doesn't know what he wants and doesn't always like speak up to like
Captaining a ship.
yeah,
Had
like,
people
he
had
takes
the discussion
command
too.
pretty often. Like, he's more assertive. Like, he just grows as a character. I really
He
like
died
him.
and came back to life.
Oh, and I know I'm literally
there's-
doing my next video
Yes,
coming
Fair
out is
Harry.
Harry Kim moments.
Okay.
But I don't feel like he really changed at all. Like every other member of that cast had a noticeable change. Balana, hugely different from episode
Well,
1
B'Elanna has one
to
of the
last
best character
episode.
growth arcs in Star Trek. Like, she's
I
amazing.
agree there. But I mean, like
Uh,
everybody, Tom,
Tom was really good,
Chakotay
too.
didn't really change much.
No,
he
Chakotay was
got a
pretty
little
static.
softer, but
Janeway was actually pretty static too, but she was great.
Janeway
Well,
had some
doing
growth
that.
though. She definitely had some growth.
I think I have to disagree, okay? Because like I think Harry Kim, the only thing that didn't change about him was his rank. But there was a lot of things that changed about him. He was tested just about as much as Neelix. Like he had a conversation with Janeway. Janeway was trying to coddle him in like the later 5th, 6th, or 7th season. He's like, it's been 5 years since I was that young ensign who came aboard with my trumpet or whatever he plays, his saxophone.
Clarinet.
Clarinet.
Yeah. And also there was that time when Tom was like, I think he was trying to give him some pointers about something. He's like, well, the difference between now is like, I'm a little bit different now. I've got some years under my boots. I'm a little seasoned. You know, I don't really need you to help me, Ensign Harry Kim, anymore. I feel like I could do this. I feel like Harry also, remember when he had to bring the whole Voyager crew back from death? And
Yes.
Fine?
This is what I'm saying. Harry kicks ass. I love Harry Kim.
though I mean Harry was the reason that they all died.
And he was
so,
tested.
Still.
I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about character
Actually
development
supposed to be
within
a Delta Quadrant alien. Like,
Yeah, when he was
his
convinced
favorite
that he
son.
was-
The plan
yeah.
was actually originally that he really was from that planet, but then they were like, oh, that's crazy. Never mind.
that's one of the worst fucking plot lines in the history of ever.
Sorry for the tangent. Anyway. Reese
So as
should've
far
been
as characters in this episode, let's talk about the development of Daniels from steward on the NX-01 to this friggin' guy.
Before we go there, can I make one comment? I think that Book and Michael's child is called Leto because Book's first
Book's
name
nephew.
is Cleveland. And so I think his full name is Toledo.
Nah, just a
Oh.
reference to his dead nephew, but yeah,
No, I
I
think
can see
it's
that.
I'm from
Toledo.
Ohio. I'm from Ohio, and I know both of those disgusting places. That very well could be the case. Maybe there's somebody who really likes Ohio in the writers' room, but I always thought this was a Dune reference because, this is
Oh,
Leto the
interesting.
second. The first Leto was his nephew. He's naming him after them, so this is going to be Leto the second, just like in Dune, how Paul Atreides' son is Leto the second. I thought that it was a Dune reference with the movies coming out recently. That's what I thought.
So yeah, Kovic. What'd you guys think about the big reveal?
I am in agreement with Mr. Know-It-All that we were on the edge of our seats thinking it was going to be Q or the Q continuum.
I thought they were going to say Wesley. So, I really thought that was going to be
Oh,
Wesley.
interesting. My theory was just wrong. I thought he was some kind of powerful alien. But the time, being like a time agent does make sense.
Yeah, I did not see with this one coming at all.
But I do love that because we should have. Like, it's one of those things where there are all these little, like, red herrings and we just get swooped by a raptor that we should have seen coming for us.
I'm
'Cause,
very
like,
happy with the answer. It's good.
He was all
Oh,
involved in all that
that's
temporal
creepy.
stuff with Giorgio from the beginning. Like, time agent, that makes so much sense. I feel very silly.
I think I was in the stream and I said that I thought he was going to be a veteran of the temporal war. So I
Oh,
think
look
I
at
was
you.
on it, but I didn't know that it was going to be Daniels. But it actually does make a lot of sense that it is Daniels because there is so many versions of him that have died and stuff. Like there is definitely going to be like a version of him that escaped the war and grew old. That's cool, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that seeing Geordi's visor was creepy, but when they were showing so many TNG things like the Dustbuster phaser and Geordi's visor and the Chateau Picard, I was starting to think like, ooh, are we gonna find out this is really Riker or something
So
like that?
the reason that the visor stuck out to me is because, unless I'm wrong, which is possible, all of the other effects that he had on those walls were from Captains. It was Cisco's ball. It was Picard's wine. It was, and
Well,
so
I
it
mean,
just seemed like weird to pull out the visor. And
to be
also,
fair, we know that he had to have been a captain at some point because he's a Commodore, the next rank up
that's
in
true. But
Picard.
it also felt like if someone put my wheelchair on display when I die, like it doesn't make any sense to me if it's a discarded piece of medical tech. And it wasn't like he was the only one who ever wore one because we've seen one on lower decks. So I
I
don't know.
want
It was weird.
I want to know why, with all the other major captain stuff, why there was nothing from the NX-01. Why is there nothing from Archer?
Yeah.
Why is there no dog tag from Porthos?
Because
Why is there no water polo ball?
Because he has Daniel.
I get a little bit defensive, like in the back of my mind, whenever they do anything with Deep Space Nine. Like I was really defensive in Strange New Worlds when they wrote that Ben Sisko's author wrote that terrible children's book. Like, why would a science fiction writer write that terrible children's book? At first, I was like, leave Ben Sisko alone. Stop passing his baseball around like some cheap whore. But no, I actually feel like that the baseball is safe. I like that the baseball's safe in a little box on the time traveler's desk. I think that it's good. And Del, I was thinking about what you just said, and I also thought that might be interesting. Like, what if I became famous and somebody immortalized my insulin pump? But,
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's like actually too unusual because like imagine like a prosthetic like George Washington's prosthetic teeth. We would probably
Those
keep
are
that in a
preserved,
museum.
I think.
Yeah, we would keep that in a museum.
They
So
probably have FDR's wheelchair somewhere too.
because that was our one president who was disabled and he was secretly disabled and he like didn't want the public to know. And so like yeah, I think that we would probably immortalize pieces of medical equipment if somebody was famous enough.
This could be interesting because Kovic never does say, he's like, and others. He could have been talking about the Enterprise J at that point, because I mean, he does bring Archer there at one point, and maybe he served to, see the timeline there also. So
I experienced firsthand someone who is not as dedicated as a Trekkie as I was, or I am. Fuck. Oh, Rave didn't get the Daniels reference at all. And we agreed afterward that if he had said NX-01, that would have been evocative enough to remember who Daniels was.
I'll be honest, I've only watched through Enterprise once, and I did have to look it up. I was like, that's familiar. Oh, that guy.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my bias for why I like Enterprise a lot more than most people is because I wasn't actually there when it was coming out. Like, I watched it in one sitting.
Yeah, Enterprise is
I
better
binged
if
it
you
too.
binge it.
I bet, like, for
My-
people like Dustin who were there when it was coming out, you've already explained to me that
Yeah.
sequel was boring.
Yeah, my
Coming
dad
off
never
all
liked
the
it,
amazing
so I didn't
90s
watch
series,
it.
and then we got that, which
Yeah.
did get good, but it got good after I had already tuned out because season 1 and most of season 2 were that fucking bad.
But for me,
I'll
as a
be honest,
in 2024,
I
can,
didn't
like, get
hate
through
season 1 of
in a week,
Enterprise.
and I'll be
I
like,
also
oh,
didn't hate season
look.
1 of DS9. I feel like both of them had better season ones
You're
than
not wrong.
TNG did by like a wide margin.
I'm also a season
TNG
one-
season 1 is one of the worst seasons, period, of like anything I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it's
Not
truly
in Star
awful.
Trek. I don't think we'll see anything about the Cold War in Academy either, because I mean, we're already more than 100 years past it. It's like almost 200 years at this point. Past when even like they've signed the temporal accords. So I was really surprised that we didn't get any time travel in. I mean, we got that little bit of weird time travel in the middle of the season, which was actually pretty good. But I thought we were going to get something here. I thought maybe somebody or some part of the crew would end up maybe going back to their own time. And that just never happened. So if we're not getting it here, I don't think we're going to get the Cold War in Academy.
I don't
No
think
one with their
that can-
family that much, I guess.
Guaranteed we'll get some time travel episodes, because that every Star Trek series gets time travel episodes. I just don't think we're going to touch any more on the temporal Cold War. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get more about the Infinity Room and in general, and like how that tied in more to it, because it seemed to be a big part of this. And like even at the end, when they're like headed to the ending, and Kovic is still like calling Burnham for a mission into the Infinity Room, and it's like, okay, all right.
I still have the same bias against those little infinity sign communicators because they look like Nuva rings.
They do.
Every time I see them, I'm like, that's how you insert a Nuva ring.
Wonderful. So what do you guys think about the old married Book and Burnham part of the
So cute.
outro?
I'm happy for them after all of that pining. It is nice to know they get their little happily ever after. I like their weird little rustic house on their red little planet. It's cute. It's fine. I feel like I can't enjoy it as much because I'm just so mad that it's just tacked on to this end of the series that wasn't really meant to be the end of the series. So I'm just like, I just want one more season and then I would be happy. I think.
What I really liked about it was that they went back to Sanctuary 3, where he had
the worm.
hid the transworms.
That was awesome too.
Oh, that's a great point.
And I thought that kind of drew at least his plot, because that's the first thing we learn about him, basically. Turning the very first time they see each other into the last time that they're going to see each other.
That's actually kind of an interesting, like, does anybody feel like Book developed more in the final 2 seasons than Burnham?
Yes.
Yeah, but I thought
Yeah, because there was nowhere left for
needed a
Burnham
bit
to
more.
develop.
Yeah, like, she really was not, the only person who tested her captaincy was, like, outside elements and then Rillick.
Yeah.
Like, I just, I is such a victim. I wanted so much more from Captain Burnham. I wanted her to fly around and do so much more shit.
Yeah, I just wish Paramount had like enough faith in the show to have like let it have one more season with like a proper planned ending, because I feel like Discovery deserved that, and we would have gotten more of that feeling of actually getting to say goodbye to all these characters and like really wrap things up, instead of, you know, like hurried reshoots to like make a season 5 that was not planned to be the end feel like the end. Like I just wanted more from it, and it all ended up feeling just like a little bit rushed, I think, and it just doesn't have like the weight that a like planned final season could have.
No, I think I would have liked. I didn't hate the idea of this. I wish they'd just showed me Burnham and Book for about 2 minutes. My problem with this is that it goes on for like 10 or 15 minutes, and after we've already gotten through the bulk of, the good stuff of the season, this just feels like it drags. And the first time I watched it, I'm like, can I just click to the end because I'm so freaking bored. I mean, some of it's okay, like especially putting the like deer named Alice. I'm not
Yeah,
quite.
that was cute.
It ties back to Alice in Wonderland and the theme of there, but does it have any greater significance other than the Alice in Wonderland reference? Cool.
Also, we didn't even get a Michael Burnham monologue at the end. Remember how she used to monologue in like season 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Like, what the
Star
hell,
Trek:
bro?
The Exposition.
Like, what the hell? That was a really cool part of Discovery that actually made it feel like a drama, like they were actually trying to do in season 1. I was like, oh, this feels like a space drama, like a modern space drama. She's monologuing, this is setting the tone. We didn't even get a monologue at the end.
Yeah.
I'm
I
so
thought
okay
it
with that.
was
I didn't like
So
interesting.
sad.
I thought it was interesting because I noticed it in this episode that we don't get a whole lot of cold opens with a captain's log. And we don't really see people doing their own little logs.
Yeah.
And it came up when she was in the progenitor tech and she couldn't get contact with the ship. And then she just keeps going. I'm like, why don't you just make this a log entry rather than hoping that Discovery will pick up what you're saying? And then I was like, oh, they don't do log entries on Discovery. They're too cool for that.
To Jacob's question here, no, I don't. And here's why. This season was already pretty, like, dragged out to be what it was. It took the premise of one great episode that was paced very well and tried to stretch it into a season. And it wasn't terrible. It's serviceable. It's fun to watch. But imagine basically being the same thing but without the extra like clues and things that these scientists have already left behind to make it somewhat interesting. Like they're just going to go from one to the other and that's going to be it. So no, I definitely don't want to know any more about this. I think we have done this more than to death with the progenitor tech. The only thing I want to know is more about who created it before the progenitors.
I think it would be an interesting short. Like if they were going to just do one of the short treks and just have them at the point where they're in their ship and they're about to get to the Lagrange point and figure out if it was there when they found it, whatever, and have that moment so that maybe we can even illustrate the moment when Dr. Derek's was like, nope. But to get to see the scientists and sort of see a little bit of how they found it and why they decided not to use it. Well, they used it to seed life and then they were done. I don't know, like it would be interesting to me. I don't think I would want an hour of it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no long track. So the last question, what do you think of was the setup of Calypso satisfying?
I wish they had been more clear about why they were sending Zora out into the middle of nowhere to wait.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. Like, all right, we know what Zora is being sent to do and asked to do, but okay, two things. Why are we sending Zora out now? Why not send Zora out later, closer to the time? And I've seen a lot of talk in different forums about, so does that mean the Federation doesn't exist 1,000 years from now? Well, that's a good question. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it has any stake. We're sending an AI-driven, amazing starship that can do stuff that other ships can't do to sit there for 1,000 years just to help a dude in an escape pod. Okay.
Yeah, very strange.
I would have bought it more.
Oh, go
Like,
ahead.
I would have bought it more if they were sending her out to protect where the progenitor tech was.
Okay.
That I would buy. But like, no, we're gonna park you in a unlined parking space, and you just have to stay there until I'm done shopping.
Yeah, the second time I watched this episode, I watched Calypso immediately after, and like, okay, well now Calypso feels better going into it. But I gotta say that short trek is better than this whole 90-minute episode for me by like a lot.
It did make me feel feelings. Including very bad for Zora. Like, after that, is she going to go back to the Federation, or is she just going to keep waiting?
I want to go back to them after they abandoned me for thousands of years.
Is that what she's waiting for? But she seems lonely. Where's she going to find people now?
Yeah, I kind of wish we had gotten a Zora-centered episode somewhere along the way. Zora was just kind of an afterthought, just another one of those members of the crew like Detmer and Oo that, all right, you get a few lines a season.
They definitely had her piped down this season. Remember, she was yapping in the 4th season. She was actually like not following the rules, and they had her talking a lot. And it was kind of creepy to me because I was genuinely creeped out by the computer talking that much. But yeah, no, she does not talk that much at all. It's not like she's a character. She's like a computer this season.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that Raynor would not entirely trust Zora. And also, one of the things in general in Discovery is that they've taken a lot of time out in, like, we don't get people jaunting down the hallway on their way to the mess because they can just tap their chest and show up there. Granted, they still walk from time to time, but and they can get food instantly. It's not like they have to go grocery shopping and then cook it or whatever. So I don't see why other tech couldn't be treated the same way. If that makes any sense.
It does.
I truly think they would have cooked with Raynor if they had one more season, by the way.
I agree with that.
He's a pretty likable dude. He's a good actor. I really like him in Battlestar a lot.
Cool. All right, so Dell's got to get out of here, and we've been running here for a while, so let's go to out of 10s, and Dell, you can go ahead and start first.
I'm going to give 2 scores. I'm going to give Discovery a score, and I'm going to give Life itself a score. Because it's not fair to make them be the same. I'm going to rate the finale a 4.5. Like, it's serviceable. There's some gems in there, but there's also some lengths of time that just didn't need to be there and could be talking about something else. For Disco as a whole, I'd give it an 8. In my rankings, because I'm Dustin, it would come somewhere between DS9 and Enterprise on my list of favorite shows.
Ruthless.
Which would be like somewhere between 300 and 500.
Very good.
Only in love.
Oh. Okay, I think I'll follow Dell's lead. So if I were just reading this finale as an episode of Discovery by itself, I would probably give it like a 6.5. It had some moments that really worked for me. The scene with Saru, I think, elevated the entire episode for me significantly. And overall, it was decent. The fact that we didn't actually really get to see the wedding. I am livid about it. I'm super mad. How dare they? I feel like something was taken away from me. Not happy. They built up to it so much and then we didn't really get it. That sucked. And yeah, like it was okay. It was fine. As a series, I like Discovery. I'd probably give it like a 7.5. It had some really, really great characters and moments that are some of my favorite in Star Trek, but overall also somehow feels kind of like less than the sum of its parts in its total execution, especially with this rushed, messy final season that was not supposed to be a final season. So I think that stops me from elevating it like higher among Trek series.
I think that overall, like there are definitely, I agree, a handful of things from Discovery that I love. I'm going to give this whole series overall maybe like a 4 and a 4.5. And I think that the only really good score I'm going to give it is the final, 25 minutes. I like the ending. I'll give it a 7 or an 8. It made me happy. I'm finally happy that somebody in Star Trek can just like grow old together and not have to go to Steel Temple or have their significant other exploded in the final episode. And also, I just listened to you guys and a lot of the fans who aren't even really necessarily haters, but want to love Star Trek and want to have fun. And I think that we all just feel a little let down and at most appeased. And we weren't really given what we wanted. And none of our expectations of this show and its beautiful cast were met. So I'll give it a 4. It's a letdown for me.
A 4 for the episode?
A 4 for Discovery, a 4 for episode.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 6 for the episode. Here's a word that I have thrown around, I feel, far too often this season. Serviceable. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, there's little things wrong with it, but as a whole, it's a pretty good episode. It's a pretty good season, totally watchable. I feel like it's right in the middle of all the seasons for me as far as likability. Yeah, it had some great moments. Like Ren said, Saru. Saru is the fucking winner for this episode. But it had enough problems to keep it from being that like 9 or 10 that most series finales are. This isn't an All Good Things. It is not Endgame or any of those. But it is better than Turnabout, Intruder, and These Are the Voyages for sure, which are very low bars to clear.
Turnabout,
all right.
Gas.
You are fucking kidding me, right?
Yeah, I'm kidding a little bit. Here.
All right, so that gives an average of a 6.14. So, coming up Discovery next week, we are going to do a topic called Queers in Space, LGBTQ themes in Star Trek. After that, we'll do a week of trivia, and then we'll take a summer break for a little while. So, I would like to thank all of my co-hosts and everyone, all the co-hosts that have been here all season, and all of you for joining in, especially in the chat. We love hearing from you guys. So, till we see you again, live long